Good morning. The math lesson today is going to be a wrap-up of changing fractions and mixed numbers to decimals. We've been doing a lot of work with this, and you should be feeling pretty comfortable with it right now. The substitute is going to give you three different things. One sheet of binder paper, and then a re-engage worksheet, and an extra practice worksheet. Make sure you put your name on all three when you get those papers, because you're going to be turning them in at the end of the period, and that's going to be your proof that you were actually working during math time. As I go through this video, I'm going to be showing you the items, and then I'm going to be giving you time to work on them. The substitute is going to pause the video when I say pause here to work on your items, but you need to make sure you're working on them, because when you check back in, it's just going to be a quick look. Is that the answer that you got? Yes or no? And if you have not worked any of it out, you're not going to have time to show your work. And if you do not show your work, you do not get credit. So please make sure when it's your time to change a fraction to a decimal or convert a mixed number to an improper fraction and then change it to a decimal, that you are actually doing the work. Otherwise, you're going to be losing credit and losing points. So make sure you're staying focused. If you have a multiplication chart that I have given you, then you may take that out and use it, of course. In fourth period, those of you that work with Miss Hera, she will give you a calculator if you need one. And then again, you need to be doing the work. Don't sit there waiting for Miss Hera or for the substitute to tell you what to do, because this is not introducing the concept. This is, you already know what to do, and now you're demonstrating your knowledge in how to do this. So please stay focused and remember, safe, respectful, and responsible. You are not talking, you are not playing around. If your name is left by the substitute that you were not following directions, you and I will be having a private conversation that will also involve your parents. So please, safe, respectful, responsible. So here we go. What we are learning, why we're learning it, and how we know that we've learned it. Well, today we're reviewing how to change fractions and mixed numbers to decimals. And before you can multiply or divide mixed numbers, you have to change that mixed number to an improper fraction. So that's an important reason to know how to change a mixed number to an improper fraction, so you can continue with the multiplication or the division. You also need to know how to change a fraction to a decimal, as this is an easy way to compare fractions to see which is larger. And that's what you're going to be doing at the end of the video, or at the end of the lesson. You're going to take all your answers and you're going to write them in order from least to greatest by comparing your decimals. And how will you know that you've learned this? You'll be able to multiply the whole number in the denominator, then add in the numerator and write this over the denominator when you're changing a mixed number to an improper fraction. And you will be able to divide the numerator by the denominator to change a fraction to a decimal. So here we go. This is your problem of the day. This is also one of the questions that was on your math assessment, and there were a number of you that did not get this correct. You misunderstood what the question was asking you to do. So I've placed it here again, and you're working on this individually. None of the work today is collaborative work. So you should not be saying, I was just asking my partner what I do here, or I was just asking someone else, or I was answering a question. You should not be asking or answering questions. So for this one, there are two jugs. One jug has 312 and 15 hundredths milliliters of water. The second jug has 603 tenths milliliters of water. What is the difference in the water levels? Most of you did pretty well with this, but in some students misunderstood and they wrote an explanation. One jug has more water than the other. That does not answer the question. What is the difference? Indicates a math operation, and that should be subtraction. So the first thing you need to do is write your written numbers as numerals or as numbers, and then you need to subtract. So I'm going to have the substitute pause the video here, and you're going to take 3 minutes to read this again to yourself silently, write out your answer, and then have that on your paper. You are not going to have to write your objective for today, but you do not need to copy the problem of the week. Do not, the problem of the day. Do not spend your time writing out the whole question. You don't need to do that. Show me how you're going to write those numbers and how you're going to subtract them and your answer. 3 minutes and go. Okay, so you should have written your numbers down. And I'm going to write the first one, 312 and 15 hundredths. Well, hundredths, I know I have 2 places. 15, I'm going to write the number 15. Tenths, hundredths, 15 hundredths. Now, the second one, and this is where some of you, even though you subtracted, had a mistake in writing the number. 603 tenths. 600 and 3 tenths. And I know I'm looking for the difference, so I'm going to subtract. Well, I notice I don't have a number here, but I have 3 tenths. So that means I need to add a 0 so that I can subtract, but I'm not changing the value of this number. So now I'm going to subtract. You know you're going to have to rename, and this is going to be 5. 2 subtract 1 is 1. Bring down your decimal point. Well, I have zeros here. You can't just write 1 and 2. You have to, again, rename. Remember, this is going to be a 10. I'm going to borrow. Now, 10 subtract 2, 8. 9 subtract 1, 8. I'm sure some of you looked at that and went, what are you doing, Mrs. Judd? 5. 5 subtract 3. I was thinking of my answer. 2. And your answer should be 288 and 15ths milliliters. Okay, you can abbreviate milliliters, small m, capital L. Okay, and that's your answer for problem of the day. So now let's move on to your first example. This is the re-engage page, and we're going to take a look at this model that they give you first. And I'm going to have you label denominator on your paper. Everyone is doing this. Even if you say, I know that's the denominator, label it. And this is the numerator. And again, even if you're like, I know that's what it is, label it. And remember, when you're taking this fraction and you're dividing, your denominator becomes your divisor. Label this too. That's your divisor. This is an S, divisor. This is your dividend. Your numerator becomes your dividend. So when you're looking at this fraction and thinking, how do I do this now? This is how you do it. And then your quotient is your decimal. Okay? And here, because you had an improper fraction, your decimal is 1 and 625 thousandths. We had also talked in class about you could just take your fraction, change your fraction into a decimal, and remember to write your whole number in front. So if you're looking at this, it's like, don't need to do that. I can just change my fraction. By all means, you can do that. Your answer is not going to be any different. If you're confused by that, then use the process of changing the mixed number to an improper fraction. And either way, here we go with the first two. Write each fraction or mixed number as a decimal. Stop at the thousandths place. Even if you could keep on going, you take it out 3 places after the decimal point and stop. Okay? So you have 2 examples that you need to do. And I'm going to, this one should be fairly easy to set it up and divide. So again, I'm going to have the substitute give you 3 minutes to get both of them done. Remember, you are not talking, you are not looking around. 3 minutes is going to go by pretty quickly. So pause the video here, and in 3 minutes, check back in and see if your answers match. Ready? Go. Okay, and checking back in, 3/8 written as a decimal is 375 thousandths, and 2 3/4 written as a decimal is 2 75 hundredths. Okay, so check to make sure those are your answers. And again, if all you did is change 3/4 to 75 hundredths and then added back in the 2, your answer is still going to be the same here. Okay, so now on to the other side of the paper and the student practice. Again, looking at 1 and 2, you have 2 mixed numbers. You can use either process. That's entirely up to you. Because you do have 2 mixed numbers now, that might take you a little bit longer. So the substitute is going to pause the video here for 4 minutes. That should give you plenty of time to get these answers done. Okay, if you finish early, go back and check over your work. Try to resist the temptation to work ahead and get everything done, and then you sit there with nothing to do and start talking, and then, oh yeah, you're in trouble. So be patient. You might want to have your book for silent reading nearby. So if you finish early, just open your book and read. When it's time to get back to work again, close your book and we move on. Okay, here we go. 4 minutes and work. Okay, so let's check your answers for the next 2. Again, changing your mixed number to an improper fraction. Your answer should be 1 125 thousandths. And for your second one, and some of you may have looked at this and looked at 1/4 and thought, oh, that's 25 hundredths. And so you may not have needed much time for this. So hopefully you're either reading silently or going back and checking your work. Either way, your answer is 3 25 hundredths. Okay, now on to the next 2. And you have 6/8 and 3/5. You only have 2 fractions here. There are no mixed numbers, so the substitute is going to give you 2 minutes. That's 1 minute per fraction to do your division. Get ready, pause the video here, and go. Okay, so looking at 6/8, 6/8 is 75 hundredths, and 3/5, you could have written this as 6/10, if you realized you did not need this other 0, or kept it and 60 hundredths. Either way is correct. Okay, and moving on to the next 2. You have a mixed number and a fraction. You have 2 7/8 and 3/4. So again, I'm going to have the substitute pause the video here, and you're going to have 3 minutes. The mixed number might take some of you a little bit longer, but again, as a reminder, if you finish early, before the 3 minutes are up, just read silently. Turning around and talking for any reason is a problem, okay? There is no excuse for saying I just had to ask a question or I needed to borrow or no. You got a question, put your hand up. Let the substitute help you with it. You do not take it upon yourself to talk. Okay, so pause the video here, 3 minutes, and go. Okay, and for your last two on your re-engage page, 2 7/8 written as a decimal is 2 875 thousandths. 3/4 written as a decimal is 75 hundredths. Now we're going to the extra practice page and make sure your page or the examples you're looking at match what you see here on the screen. So you should be on the extra practice page and numbers 1 and 2. You've got a mixed number and a fraction, and some of these fractions are the exact same thing that you've already done before. So I'm going to have the substitute pause here for 2 minutes because some of these should be very automatic now when you see them, and you can very quickly show your division. Remember, you need to show your work. If all you do is write an answer, you don't get any credit for that. So 2 minutes, pause the video here, and check back in. Ready? Pause and begin. Okay, and for your first two, you should have 2.4, or if you wrote 2.40, that's fine, and 75 hundredths. Okay, now on to the next two. You have a mixed number and a fraction. And this mixed number, it might take you just a little bit longer. So I'm going to have the substitute give you 3 minutes to do both the mixed number and the fraction and turn them to decimals. So pause the video here, 3 minutes, and then check back in. Go. Okay, I'm sure you notice with both of these decimals, they're repeating decimals. The direction said take it out to the thousandths place. So for 4 1/3, you have 4 decimal point 333, and you can put your dots. If you stopped after the first 3 and put a line or put dots, that's fine. For the second one, it was the same thing. You have a repeating decimal. If after the first time you divided, you realize you're going to keep getting 4, and you either put a line or put 3 dots, that's fine. If you continued out to the thousandths place and then put 3 dots, either way, you're good. You've got the concept. So moving on to the next two. And you've got a fraction and a mixed number. Okay, so I'm going to have the substitute pause the video here and 3 minutes and then check back in. Pause the video and begin. Okay, looking at 4/16. I also took 4/16 and put it in lowest terms, and then I showed the division both ways. If you look at a fraction and you realize I can put that in lowest terms and then change it to a decimal, your answer is going to be the same. Okay, 4/16 or 1/4. Your answer is still 25 hundredths. 3 5/8, when you change that to a decimal, you have 3 625 thousandths. On to the last two. And you have 2 mixed numbers. So I'm going to have the substitute pause the video here for 4 minutes. And again, you might want to look at 4/12 and 3/15 and realize 4/12 is going to be 1/3. 3/15 is going to be 1/5, and put your fraction in lowest terms before changing it to an improper fraction. Either way, whichever way you want to do that. And then make your decimal, and we'll check back in. And then the very last thing you're going to do is put all of your answers for both of your pages in order from least to greatest by decimals. So pause here 4 minutes and then check back in. Okay, so 2 4/12 as a decimal is 2, and again, you get a repeating decimal. So I have 333 thousandths. Again, your directions would take it out to the thousandths. If you realize this is a repeating decimal and you put a line over the 3 or over the 33 and put 3 dots, or put 3 dots, I should say, that's fine. I need to see that you understand it's a repeating decimal. And the same thing with 5 3/15. If your decimal is going to be 5 2/10, whether you reduced 3/15 to 1/5 or whether you kept it the same, your answer is not going to be any different. It just makes it a little bit easier if you don't want to multiply by the larger numbers. But it's entirely your choice. Okay, so now you are done with all of these answers. This is your next step. On your binder paper, you have your problem of the day that's already been written. And now you're going to write the answers you found on the Reengage page in order from least to greatest. So go back to your Reengage page and look at the answers that you have. Decide which one of those answers is the smallest, and then which is next, what comes after that, and put all of those decimals in order from least to greatest. And then do the same thing for the extra practice page. Take a look at the answers that you got. If you want to write your answers out first and then reorder them from least to greatest, that's fine. On your binder paper, I need to see that you have taken all of your answers and written them in order from least to greatest on both pages that you've done. You have a total of 8 examples on your Reengage, and you have a total of 8 on your extra practice. So I should see all of those answers in order from least to greatest, written in decimal format. Okay? So that's the very last task you have. If there is still time left in the period, take your book for silent reading. There is no math homework tonight. You will get your problem of the day, problem of the week tomorrow, and we'll go over it tomorrow. But for tonight, there is no homework in math or in science. Once you're done, read silently. Okay? And I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.